I am resident of Colored for YouTube, joined by my buddy Alan Gallant, my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to review the movie Christine. Came out, let's see, December 9th, 1983. Yes, this was directed by John Carpenter. This is based off the Stephen King novel. It's the same title. Screenplay for it, though, was by Bill Phillips, not Stephen King. Produced by Richard Kobritz and Larry J. Franco. The stars Keith Gordon, John Stockwell, Alexandra Paul, Robert Prosky, and Prosky, and Harry Dean Stanton is in this movie. So
guy was everywhere back then.
He was. He was in the original Alien.
Yep.
Sadly, he passed away right as they were in development for the game Alien Isolation. Close to it, I think.
Yeah, it's just like a year, 2 years ago, something like that. He passed away. So.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, guys, we'll start with Patrick. When did you first see Christine, Patrick?
I saw it when it opened. I saw it in '83 in theaters. It was one of the big horror Christmas releases.
Nice. Alan, when did you first see this?
Oh, God, I think I saw it probably 4 or 5 years later. Probably around 88.
Yeah. I saw this movie on TNT's Monster Vision, hosted by Joe Bob Briggs at the time, which was interesting because it was on as they would show 2 films every night, sometimes more depending on what they showed. Because I remember they showed their final airing. They showed all the Friday the 13th movies up to that point in time. With the movie Christine, I always felt this was like Jaws on land or with a car.
But other than that, it's just like Jaws.
All right.
In a sense,
Real.
I did love the opening, how the car starts and they play George Thorogood's "Bad to the Bone," which I thought was appropriate for this movie, considering how badass the car actually is. Alan, what did you think of Christine, the car?
The car, it's an absolute badass car. I mean, it takes out 2 people before it even gets off the assembly line. It's also it's a Fury. It's a fantastic classic car. It's a great car. Apparently, they went through quite a few of them making this movie, as you can well imagine from all the stunt work the car had.
Yeah.
But they also did like a plastic cast of the body of the car for some of that restoration magic, restoring of itself. So they worked a lot on that car. Obviously, it's the central thing. I thought it was kind of interesting when I first saw this movie. To me, my impression of it was it starts out as a buddy film.
Yeah.
It's the 2 guys, and then it sort of turns away from that, and you start to get into this sort of obsession story, and the guy gradually becomes like his predecessors, obsessed with the car and so on, and starts freaking out and all of that. So then you get this sort of, and then ultimately what happens is you get the revenge cycle. The car is going to take it out on behalf of its driver, and so by that time it sort of has some of the classic tropes of some of the better teen horror movies. I thought it was a little dated in the way that it was made. I don't think Stephen King, it was his favorite film for sure. He hadn't yet hooked up with Darabont or some of the other, producer directors that he really liked a lot. but it certainly was head and shoulders above some of the other earlier Stephen King works, like Maximum Overdrive, which was not very good at all, pretty terrible actually. But yeah, so this one was okay. I thought it was entertaining. It is kind of it has that drive-in teen horror movie pastiche, which is not, that's not necessarily a severe criticism of it, but it's a kind of a style, a texture that's in it.
Yeah. Patrick, what did you think of the car Christine?
It's a fantastic prop. I mean, it was made to be menacing. I really, really, it is justifiably the star of the movie. King knows his Americana, and he knows his cars, and he picked the right one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A great sort of companion to this movie is the original Car, the movie The Car.
Yes,
which
that is a drive-in movie, by the way. I mean,
yeah,
that's where I saw The Car at a drive-in.
Yeah, great movie, and now that car doesn't get put together in that movie, but the car is driven by a supernatural force. We'll say the devil.
Yes.
Yes. Now, I wouldn't say the devil drives this car, but something is.
Well, it's possessed by some spirits, I think, is what's going on with this particular one, that were formerly earthly beings.
Yeah.
In the car, though, it's like Steve McGarrett's car, painted completely flat black, with you can't see in it or out of it. So it's like you say, it's more satanic.
This would be the car one of the Collins family members would own, for sure.
I didn't think just pop the bleeder valve on Christine. It would have taken care of it immediately.
Yeah, for sure.
Gone down in flames over the edge of Widow's Hill.
Yeah. Roger would be the one not restored, for sure. But yeah, it's a very interesting movie. Harry Dean Stanton is here, but I'll tell you what, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. John Stockwell and Keith Gordon's chemistry is really good in this. You're right. It is very.
It's a buddy film when it starts. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of them plays. I think it's John or Stockwell who's the football player, and there's this girl that he likes, but Keith Gordon's character ends up scoring the girl because Stockwell's character gets almost paralyzed on a football play, which that can happen. So I like, even though this movie has a very supernatural style and feel, it does deal in realistic problems and issues outside of the car aspect. What do you guys think of that?
Developing from childhood to adulthood is also a theme in some of the earlier Stephen King films, like Stand By Me. Yeah. This one has that teenage, I mentioned before, that feel of a teenage drama or horror film. And the reason he gets laid out on the football field is because he sees his buddy and the girl he likes kissing on the sidelines. So, it's kind of that whole thing. So yeah, there's certainly those kind of themes, and of course that's classic for this kind of horror movie anyway. Raging hormones have their consequences, which is usually you're getting killed by somebody or something. In this case, it's the bullies, and so on, which is also another high school trope. So, but that's kind of there's a commitment to that in this. It's not like, we're just gonna move away from that. No. They stuck with it pretty well. So
yeah. Patrick, what did you think?
Specifically of what?
Oh, about how the two boys are a buddy comedy, or like a buddy movie.
And one
to begin
falls
with.
Away.
Yeah.
It's sad because I really like their chemistry, but it's supposed to be sad, and liking their chemistry is intrinsic to that.
Yes. Yeah. That's where the tragedy comes in.
I think the way the car gets bought too is really intriguing because he just spots it. He's like in the Keith Gordon's characters in the passenger seat. He's like, "Go back, go back," and then you see it's all beat. You see Christine's all beat up, and then he takes him and his buddy take it to a garage, where the garage owner is like a little mean to him. He goes, "Okay, I'll let you fix up. You got to do some odd ends here or there." Keith Gordon's character is going to end up agreeing to it. And then all of a sudden, John Stockwell's character is getting like suspicious, like, what's with this car? Like, because he has learned that some people died in it, so he's like, right, like what? What do you mean? And then when the guy told him, I love when the other phone, and I got rid of the car, and it just came back.
Yeah.
What do you mean the car came back? But the way that line gets delivered though is very chilling. It's your it's not your first hint that the car is supernatural. The first hint is the assembly line.
It's the oracle warning the hero of what's to come if he's not careful. It's that kind of thing. It's almost like a Greek scenario. The car came back. Maybe you shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. And it was all about obsession, and they killed themselves in the car and all this stuff. So yeah, it's kind of, and then, of course he ignores it. But anyway, because there's the connection between him and the car. The car is already sort of establishing the obsessive thread by that time.
I think the one thing you get to see through Keith Gordon is not just the obsession angle, but how to him, Christine's the most real thing he has a connection to.
That's right, which is ironic because he actually has a girlfriend probably for the first time in his life, but then Christine becomes the end all be all. It's almost a romantic relationship in that respect, or at least it starts that way and ends up something else. But
yeah, Patrick, what did you think of the relationship between Christine and Keith Gordon's character?
It's as well developed as you can have without, the car actually speaking, like on My Mother the Car or something.
Yeah.
It's that's not the relationship that really, is on my mind. The relationship with was it Catherine Mary Stewart? Is that the female lead in this? Looks like her.
No, it's Alexandra Paul.
Okay, Alexandra Paul seems a little rushed. That for me is one of the. I would have enjoyed seeing the development of a little bit more, because that would have given me more of an investment in what was going on with the car and its relationship with him.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I think that's something they could have worked on here with this movie. Again, when it comes to John Carpenter and horror, like he will develop. Like, it's crazy how when you look at John Carpenter's The Thing and how quickly those characters come together and are developed really well, and they have you don't have, and you look at John Carpenter's Halloween and Laurie Strode is instantly over with you, and so because you like Laurie, you like her friends, and you don't know much about them. Here, you don't really get that too much. I'm with you on that, Patrick.
It's accelerated, and it's screenplay. It's that's the difference between some of John Carpenter's more well-developed scenarios is screenplay.
Yeah, and it shows here in this movie too. Like you do get the sense that she's not from this town or even from the school. She's a transfer student. She's just moved into the area. That you get, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And you get why somebody would be attracted to her because she is a beautiful girl. But that's other than I feel the final. I don't get you guys' thoughts on this too. Like the final scenes is where she stands out the most. Like the where they're battling the car.
Mm-hmm.
What do you?
That's where the shift in her relationship between the two boys is too. I mean, that's the shift starts because, initially she's an outsider and the kid that she's attracted to first is an outsider, but he gets weird. He gets really weird. And so she's confiding in the other guy about, how concerned she is, but they end up sort of bonding over this danger that's happening. So,
yeah. Patrick, what did you think?
I think she's wonderfully strong in the last act of the movie. I really enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. And Alan's right too, that the bonding between John Stockwell's character and hers is really good, because you see, I think the one underrated aspect of that is because again, it's the car, but it's also Keith Gordon's her pushing her away too.
Sure. I mean, he's becoming completely. I mean, he's basically his personality and Christine's are just becoming one and the same, and that connection is horrifying. For anybody that's normal. Yeah.
And now, if they ever get the Dark Shadow series on the ground, we need to see David Collins driving Christine. That's what we need to see.
Into his father.
Yeah, into somebody. No, that won't happen. But just think of all the, when you think about the artifact, the strange stuff Collins' family members have collected it with Quentin and stuff. And then you see this, if you just would see this car in their driveway, they're like, yeah, run, go the other way.
Now, see, I think if Dark Shadows had survived well into the 70s and probably would have shifted to Los Angeles at some point, because most of the soaps did, then you could have had a possessed car. It could have been a storyline at some point.
Yeah,
well, in Child of Dark Shadows, Roger has a snarling, driverless black Jaguar.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
the famous Child of Dark Shadows. I got a kick out of that. That was pretty fun.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
No, it's very nice. So, who's your favorite character in this movie, Patrick?
Oh, I mean, I would say his girlfriend, and I would, and that's and his buddy, the football player, and the movie does a really good job of humanizing a trope of a character who often is inhuman. So the hero can look good. They don't do that here.
Right.
Alan, who's your favorite character?
Oh, Harry Dean Stanton. He's my favorite character in almost every movie he does, even when he's not the central character. He's just, he was an exceptional character actor, I always thought. And it's true, he always seems like he's playing himself, but he's always there. He's always responding to what's going on. He's always kind of there. I even got a kick out of seeing him in his brief role in one of the MCU movies where he shows up
he gives Hulk
after Hulk crashes into the building or whatever it is. So yeah,
it's in the Avengers movie.
Yeah,
first when they all get together, and he comes crashing down.
Yeah,
you were green. You were naked. Hey.
You've got a problem.
Yeah. He's hilarious in that, and he's not it's not a long part, but he steals it.
And he's also in another Stephen King movie. He's in the Darabont directed Green Mile. He's one of the mates in that, and he's fantastic as the guy who has to sit in the chair during the practice session. It's just bizarre and it's funny.
Yeah, my favorite character is definitely John Stockwell's football player. Really developed really well, but him and Keith Gordon's chemistry is great.
Mm-hmm.
The car is a prop and a character in itself too. But to me, for all the prop fun, it's nothing without not just the protagonist, but the other antagonist in this movie too. Which are like the tough, roughneck guys. The one guy has a razor blade.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. He was the classic bully, screaming bully that every high school movie has.
Yeah. It's crazy because this is 1983, and I'm shocked that they did not get Williams Zappa or Zabaka to be in this movie as a villain, because he played Hills in the 80s in high school movies. But
well, he probably by that time he was probably too expensive for this particular movie. I don't know.
He might have been. I don't know.
A lot of the money in this movie, production money, went into that car. And because they had to buy so many of them. So.
Yeah, the timeline of this movie is set in 1978, but so which is interesting. If you want to see Christine too, just watch Halloween Ends.
Oh God.
So, but what's your favorite scene in this movie, Patrick?
Boy. I would say the drive-in scene where we first begin to think that there's something seriously wrong. I think the almost Terminator-esque scenes at the end always stand out.
Yeah. Alan?
Any of the scenes where Christine's radio was the foreshadowing of things to come. I really like that effect. It was pretty good.
Keith Gordon in the garage, he's looking at the car, and he just goes, "Show me," and the car just starts regenerating itself.
Yeah, it's a very good scene. That's where they did the plastic body and did like a reverse crush of it and popped it out.
And then that really begins the murderous rampage, even more so of Christine.
Yeah, she was on steroids after that. She was ready to spread her wings and fly.
Yes, she was. She was definitely on something after that. That's for sure. Where do you guys rank personally Stephen King movies? Where does Christine rank in sort of your Stephen King movie file? Alan?
It's probably down about 7. I mean, there are a lot of Stephen King movies out there, 6 or 7, probably. There's a lot about it that's entertaining, but if I compare it to, The Green Mile or Shawshank or Stand By Me, which was written about the body, Needful Things, Salem's Lot, those all are going to come ahead of
for sure.
Christine.
Yeah, the original Salem's Lot is an awesome movie.
Patrick, where does Christine rank in your Stephen King movie list? Well, it's a good thing there are a lot of Stephen King movies. Yeah. Not the highest. Yeah. It's not the highest. It doesn't. It feels like he's a little bit on autopilot or cruise control, I should say. With it, it's okay, but there's not a lot of character richness you're going to get with a geek in a car. Unless it's talking like Edward Mulhare.
Or William Daniels. Michael, turn left.
Exactly.
I'll give you my top 3 all time. The Dead Zone is number 1 for me.
Oh yeah, see, I didn't even think of that one. That's definitely in my top 5.
Salem's Lot is number 2, and this is way high because it's not that old of a movie. In fact, it just the one with Ewan McGregor that's the sequel to The Shining.
Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep was really, really good. After that, it would be Storm of the Century. But
did you know, Jewel, that Storm of the Century was shot right up the street from where I worked for almost 20 years?
Cool.
Southwest Harbor, which is on Mount Desert Island, and it's called Mount Desert, not Mount Desert, because the French Mont Desert, but the village of Mount Desert. It's weird. That's called Mount Desert. Anyway, Southwest Harbor is like 5 or 6 miles up the road on this island from Somesville, where the summer theater that I worked at for many, many years was. And if you go across the island the other way, it's probably 7 or 8 miles from Bar Harbor. And it was impressive what they did I mean, to make snowstorms and things like that happen there. So
I will say this. Most Stephen King books are better than the movies. I've read a couple. The Dead Zone book is better than the movie, but the movie's really, really good too.
Mm-hmm. Well, so is The Stand, but the TV miniseries was fantastic too.
Yeah, the minis. Something there. It's weird how Stephen King movies were not going to theater; they were going to television in the '90s and stuff.
They made some very good ones.
They did. One of the reasons why that happened is because I think he got tired of film production for a while, and he formed or co-formed a television production company, and they just decided to concentrate on that for a little while.
Yeah, Stephen King's the original Stephen King's it is really, really good.
Yeah.
Amazing cast all around.
Oh yeah, tremendous.
Now there are, because I know Stephen King, he actually did not like this movie when it first came out.
No, I didn't.
John Carpenter
I think he liked it better than Firestarter, though.
Yeah, he did. John Carpenter talked about that for the longest time. He goes, "Yeah, Stephen King didn't like this movie when we did it."
Why didn't he like it?
I don't know. He just did.
I think it was just there was something about the import of the film, the tone of the film that he hadn't envisioned from the book. He had envisioned something else, and I'm not quite sure of the particulars. I'd have to look, but I do know that he wasn't really satisfied with it overall. But there were a lot of movies that early on, Carrie was a big splash and was an excellent movie, and then after that, he had trouble. They were sort of inconsistent, and you had Firestarter, and then you had, several other ones that Maximum Overdrive, some other ones that just kind of flopped out. And I think it probably left a bad taste in his mouth for a while.
You know who AC/DC was huge for? Or sorry, Maximum Overdrive was AC/DC.
AC/DC, right.
So that movie was good for.
It was. That clown face that's on the front of that.
The Green Goblin.
The Green Goblin. That's. I think that's still stashed somewhere in Maine. I think somebody has that in their barn or something. But yeah, that's right. It's the Green Goblin from the MCU. Absolutely.
It's got a good cast, which is crazy. It's.
See, even Silver Bullet to me is much better than Maximum Overdrive. Silver Bullet's entertaining.
Yeah, Silver Bullet is. I do. Like, I rewatched Silver Bullet recently, and it's like, you ever rewatch something that's not how exactly you remember it going?
All the time.
That's Silver Bullet to me.
Yeah.
Now I was like, wait, I thought this went this way. But no.
Yeah, especially movies that I hadn't seen for a long time. Like I saw them when I was a child or a young adult, and I hadn't seen them for a long time. And the memory plays tricks on you. And sometimes it's better in memory than it is in the reviewing too. Certain movies are like that.
Yeah.
And some movies go back and forth.
Yeah.
You watch them again one time and they're great. You watch them another time and it's what did I see? And then you come back a few years later and it's even better.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's just individual perspective of how your development is as a human being, looking through different eyes.
Yeah. Scale of 1 to 10, what do you guys give Christine?
6.
There you go.
I was about to say about a 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm. There you go. I'll give Jaws on Wheels a 6.5.
I give it a 6 because Alexandra Paul is very pretty.
Yes,
and Kelly Preston is in it briefly.
Yeah, very briefly.
Very briefly. But also because Henry Dean Stanton is in it. So.
He was. It's weird how you'll see the cast of aliens in different movies, in different movies, and Harry Dean Stanton is, even though is the most notable. That and Yaphet Kotto is the most notable too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see, and if that was the first movie you ever saw him in, anytime you see an actor in another movie for the first time after you've seen him that one time, a lot of times, especially if it's a good movie, you're impressed, you're imprinted with that performance. So it takes a minute to sort of separate from that into the new performance.
Yeah. I have a Yafet Koto movie challenge for you, Alan.
Uh-oh.
Go watch Freddy's Dead and then get back to me.
Freddy's Dead. Oh my God. I think I know this movie. I think I remember it vaguely. I may have seen it on some late night cable extravaganza that I didn't really mean to watch.
Was this one of the movies where they tried to end the franchise?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, too.
Yes.
It is one of the movies where they tried to end the franchise. And then they came back with Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is a good movie. But yeah, it feels like they ended the franchise after Freddy's Dead.
Whether they were trying to or not, right?
Yeah, whether they were meaning to or not. Because here's the thing, even though I like Freddy's New Nightmare and most horror fans did, it's like,
sure,
yeah, not the audience, other audiences didn't so much.
Right. Right. Well, there's some fatigue sometimes with franchises. Sometimes the fatigue sets in after a while. A little broader audience.
It's weird if they had. It's sort of reversal. If they would have came out with Freddy's New Nightmare rebooted in the 80s, I think it would have worked because it
possibly,
and switched it probably. But when you do Freddy's New Nightmare and then or after you do Freddy's Dead, it's like, yeah, you could see why. Like, yeah, I'll give you the scariest part in that movie too, Alan. Roseanne Barr. Her and Tom Arnold.
No problem. They were probably all like blowing pounds of coke a day back then.
Hey, that was right around the time they made The Stupids. That was a fine film.
Okay, guys, what movie do you want to do next?
So Larry Fine directed it? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. I have a weird one.
Sure.
It's in keeping with my conspiracy, my 70s, 80s conspiracy weirdness. It spawned some terrible things socially, but it's an entertaining movie anyway, and it's Capricorn 1.
Ah, yes.
It's a lot to talk about because we get into the silliness that it accidentally spawned, but we get into the silliness that Peter Hyams gave us in the movie, which was a film with an all-star cast.
It is, yes. It's an all-star cast. Elliot Gould was in the peak of his powers. Yeah, it kind of is. Brolin's in that too, isn't he?
Yeah, and Sam Waterston.
Yes.
And Telly Savalas, and I'm sure Brenda Vaccaro was in there somewhere.
Roughing up the proceedings with her whiskey voice, no doubt. Toxic shock syndrome and all that.
Oh my gosh. What's the name of it again? I want to make sure I get it right.
Capricorn 1.
Capricorn 1, okay.
Yeah.
All right. How's tomorrow night sound? Is that good?
Sounds good.
Sounds good, 10:30.
Yeah, 10:30. Links to Alan Glant's YouTube channel, College Sport After Dark, is going to be in the description box. I don't know if Alan will watch Freddy's Dead, but God be with you if you do.
Understood.
And link to Patrick.
I swear to God, I watched it in a hotel room back before I quit drinking, but I can't totally remember. So,
and then after that, you're like, what did I just watch? Because that's what I asked. It's a funny movie. Like Johnny Depp makes a cameo in it. The Power Glove makes a cameo in it. Yeah. Crazy movie. But link to Patrick McRae's Dark Shadows book Unbound will be in the description box. Nice hat worn by Alan today.
It's great.
Very, very nice. Is that that's?
It's an ABC tech hat. It's a tech hat. Nice. Yeah, it's probably from the 70s. I got it because of its connection to Dark Shadows.
Of course.
There you go. Do you guys remember all the Halloween episodes done by like sitcoms and stuff?
Sure.
Is there one that stands out for you guys?
Well, the Paul Lynde Halloween.
Oh yeah,
special.
that was a special. That was special. That was amazing. I mean, that was Kiss's first network television appearance. Was on that special, all into Halloween special.
Cool.
And that's not even the best thing about it. He does this skit where he's the rhinestone trucker.
Yeah.
This guy was so far out of the closet. The only thing is he dare not speak its name. That's the only, he wouldn't go that far. But, and what's his name from Carol Burnett was on that special too.
Harvey Korman? Or
No,
Tim Conway?
Tim Conway.
Or Lyle Wagner?
Yeah, Lyle Perfect. No, it was Tim Conway.
Okay.
Yeah, he's sidekicked in a couple of those scenes, and Margaret Hamilton, the Wicked Witch of the West.
Oh yeah. So there was sex appeal too.
Yeah, and yes, and the woman who plays Witchy Poo was in it, I think, for at least one scene.
I'll ask this question to both you guys, and you guys can think about it and get back to me when we do the show tomorrow. If Dark Shadows did a Halloween special, what would it look like?
Okay, think about that.
Dark Shadows did a Halloween special.
Yeah. Every day was a Halloween special.
Yeah,
I mean,
every day was
a thing. I don't know, Joel. What would happen if Dark Shadows did a Halloween special?
I don't know. I just figured I'd ask because we're in October. Why not? I think it's weird because I think Dark Shadows would do something along the lines of, they wouldn't do a possession angle. They would probably do something where something like spiritual would happen, and maybe the spirit of Halloween was going door to door, terrorizing people to death.
Right, as hell children.
As hell children. Yeah, that would be something DS would do. In my opinion, I could be wrong. So.
The little Leviathan kid comes to the door, trick or treat, Mrs. Stoddard.
Was it David J? Was that his name?
David J. He was from Massachusetts.
You could never guess.
Well, here's the thing. I could picture 3 demon kids knocking on the door and they're in costume. And so, I ain't giving you no Halloween candy. And they scare the dude to death. They're like, ah!
Yeah, really.
Fire and stuff. That would be crazy. Hey, why not, right?
It would have to be something melodramatic like that.
Absolutely. Oh my God. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks for doing.
Good. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.